Be careful. He's
and Scott Higgins, both of them coked up out of their minds.
Listen to you. He's down in the basement.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
I think we should call this the acement.
The acement, yes.
Yeah, what do you think there, huh?
I like that. The Acement Studios.
Excuse me, I'm drinking beer. Hold on a second.
We usually drink bourbon on our end.
Yeah,
when we
right.
do the podcast, so
That's all right.
feel free to enjoy yourself.
Yeah, exactly. You shoot an 8-ball if you want. We don't care, as long as it's good stories.
And welcome to Behind the Funny. This is Scott Higgins, and this is the final episode of Behind the Funny. Welcome to my new podcast. I am no longer friends with Ace Aceto. Ace, I know you're watching from Florida, and I hope you're enjoying your vacation. And I just wanted to let you know that you are fired. You are no longer a member of this podcast. Thank you for booking this week. As you can see, Ace Aceto is not here this week. He is enjoying some sun and fun in Florida, a well-deserved vacation. But we brought in our favorite guests, our favorite co-host.
Especially this time of year.
And a guy we have to have back this time of year. Our friend Tom Stewart is with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here. I look forward to this every October.
I know you do. A little too much, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But Tom is here to join us this week for Scott-tober, as our friend Jen, who I know is watching tonight, has nicknamed this month.
Oh, she came up with it?
Jen came up with it.
Oh, good job, Jen.
Yeah. And she
Scott-tober.
reminds me of it several times a week. Thank you, Jen.
You need like creepy music every time you say it. Scott-tober.
No, we don't.
Like thunder clapping or something.
No, I'll start singing the Thunder Buddy song from Ted if you're going to go there. But anyway, Ace and Tom, to my chagrin, decided to invite a couple of surprise guests just for me this week. And actually, I'm pleasantly surprised. This is going to be actually a very interesting conversation tonight.
Oh, it definitely is going to be interesting. It's going to be entertaining. And not just for you, but for me too, because I love these two. I've wanted to see what these two are all about for a long time. And I'm so excited that they were available because every year I usually come in and I talk about my podcast, my paranormal story, and talk about different experiences I've had, investigations I've gone on. And I usually play a bunch of EVPs. And that's usually where the fun is because it usually scares the pants off of Scott. But I've done that so many times now. This is like, my 4th October with you or something, 4th or 5th Halloween.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm going to up the ante and I'm going to bring in some friends. So we have Cody and Satori. They're known as the Paranormal Couple. And you have the Haunted Museum. Is that what you're calling it?
We do. Yeah. The Paranormal Couple's Haunted Museum.
Yes.
And that's pretty much what we're known by, I guess.
You say it like it's not cool.
It is cool. No, it's very cool.
You're very laxadaisial about the way that you said, it's a museum.
You got a van and everything, man. It's cool.
Know,
right?
You're
cool. In Scooby-Doo territory.
We just need a dog.
Yeah.
So you actually, like when we say a museum, it's not kind of like the Rhode Island Comedy Hall of Fame that's basically a web page. You actually have stuff.
Yeah. So we have, I think the last time we counted, it was just over, I want to say 350 objects from around the world.
Anything that is claimed to be haunted, cursed, possessed, used in some sort of rituals or different tribe ceremonies that people feel uncomfortable around. They're all given to us. We're like a foster home to take care of them.
That's not saying that we think that they're haunted, but people have claimed
I think they're haunted.
A good majority.
A good majority.
For sure.
All right. Okay. Now you father muckers.
Now he knows what the suitcase was for.
I was just going to say they came in with a suitcase tonight. You bastard. Know that show that I have you booked on tomorrow night? It just got canceled.
I just got bumped.
Oh, no. Did they give it away?
No, that's okay.
I'm speculating.
We're going to have to tell them sooner or later. But before we open up the magic suitcase, I want to know personally, I know everyone wants to know the background of how this came about. And like this is my first time meeting Satori. But the viewers and listeners will be familiar with her dad, who was on your show 2 weeks ago.
Yep, 2 weeks ago.
Jason Hawes from Ghost Hunters and Ghost Nation. This is his daughter. and she has.
So this runs in her blood.
Yeah, she's got the paranormal blood, so she's carrying the mantle, I guess is what they say.
I
right?
guess so.
Yeah.
I guess some of the kids had to do it, and I was determined to be one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's kind of what got me involved in the paranormal. I just grew up with it. It was involved since before I was even born. My dad founded TAPS about 10 years before I was even born.
Right.
So I was always involved.
Even
Yeah,
when you were a kid,
that's
this
cool.
was something that interested you?
Yeah, I mean, as soon as I was able to walk, my dad says I was holding a flashlight trying to investigate my own house. So I was always taught to acknowledge
That's
it and just
great.
be respectful of it.
Yeah,
That's
it
cool.
just it didn't phase you. It was just
No,
part
it was
of,
real. It was
Yeah.
100% real to me all the time. It was not
Yeah.
seen as fake or anything like
You
that.
had no chance of growing up a skeptic.
Yeah, no, I didn't.
You were not afforded those chances.
You are true.
That's great. So, so you got involved in paranormal investigation, obviously, because of that,
Mhm.
and you had opportunities to even appear on some of the TV shows with your dad, which is kind of cool.
Yes.
And Cody, where does your background come from paranormal investigation? Now, you've been with Rise Up Paranormal. I've been on Rise Up Paranormal. We've done some investigations together.
Yeah.
So that's how I kind of know you, but I
Right.
don't know your backstory as far as how you got into it.
Sure. So I grew up in a house in North Attleboro, Massachusetts, and I was an only child. And it was a house, 2 floors. I lived on the 2nd floor with my mom and dad. First floor was my Italian American Catholic grandparents who weren't really into the paranormal. And the first experience I remember having inside of this house, I was about 8 years old. Wake up in the middle of the night, and I go into my parents' bedroom, not feeling well. So I asked to spend the night. I crawl in between my mom and dad. I try falling asleep, twisting and turning. About 15 minutes goes by, and I open my eyes to what looks like a bunch of men circling the bed. They were going through the wall on the left side of the headboard, gliding around the bed, going through the wall on the right side of the headboard, and just kept going around in a circle. And I distinctly remember seeing the television through one of their heads. I had never seen anything like this before. Freaked me out. I pulled the covers over my head and ended up going to sleep. It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
And I did not like it at all. I remember trying to wake my parents up. They wouldn't wake up, which freaked me out even more. I ended up falling asleep. I never saw anything like that again.
How old were you when this happened?
I was 8 or 9 years old, somewhere around there.
Shit.
And I know, right? So that kind of stuck with me. And
Well, yeah, you're 8 or 9 years old. How do you process something like that at that
you don't,
age?
you don't, but it's just burned in your head for like the
Because
rest of your
I'm 52 years old and I'm having trouble processing.
Yeah,
that.
I
you
still
know,
am. I still am. I mean, I can remember what they were looking. I mean, some of them had holes for eyes. Some were holding masks up to their face. They're all mumbling the same sound that
if
I
I
can't
woke up
understand.
tonight and someone's walking through walls in my house, I'm moving tomorrow.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely. It definitely freaked me out. And like I
Yeah.
said, I pulled the covers on my head and I didn't want to look at
Yeah.
it again. And but at the same time, I also wanted to learn about what it was. And that was the only thing that was happening. There was a bunch of stuff that was happening in that house. Even my grandparents, who didn't really believe in this stuff, was hearing, running up and down the hallways when nobody was home.
That's what I'm finding out and talking to people that are into paranormal investigation. When we had your dad on, in the years we've had you on and yourself, is yes, people are frightened of the unknown, but someone like me, I just want to get away from it and
Yeah.
forget about it. And then there are the people that get into investigations like you guys, where it's like this curiosity where I got to find out more
Right.
about this. What is it?
Yeah,
How
who are
does
the
this
people? Yeah.
happen? Type of
Exactly.
thing. So
Exactly.
it's kind of like someone that takes apart a toaster and figures out how it works and puts it back together. You
Right.
got to dig into the mechanics of it and figure it
Yes,
out.
Absolutely. I'm definitely one of those types of people too that would take the toaster apart.
I'll stick with toasters.
Yeah.
turn it into an EMF detector.
Yeah, exactly.
You can let me know about this stuff, and I'll let you know about toasters.
Wonderful.
All right.
All right.
Good
But it
there.
was the
By the way, Satori, not to interrupt you, but Ace Aceto is watching from his vacation, and he said, "Hey, Satori, thanks for being on the show. Sorry I couldn't be there."
Oh, it's okay. Great to hear from you.
Yeah, he's in between sips of his drink on the beach. Yeah, we feel real
Yeah.
bad for you, Ace.
Yeah. He's got his own spirits going.
Nice.
Thank you,
But
thank
up,
you.
you're back on the show tomorrow.
Oh, all right. The night's young though. So just like me and like many people in this field,
Yeah.
you experienced something and it made you more curious than fearful.
Sure.
Is
Absolutely.
that fair to say?
Yes.
And so that's what kind of led you down the line of wanting to learn more. And
Did you
Yeah.
start investigating on your own after this happened?
Yeah. So of course, when I I started, taking out every book that I could on the subject. And then when I got to about the age of like 15, 16 years old, I had, starting to learn that there was teams that had done this, and, just finding out that Satori's dad and the next state over had one of the biggest teams in the world.
Right.
And finding out that people did this, I started emailing every team I could in the area to try joining. And what team is going to let a 15 or a 16-year-old on the team? But I just wanted to learn so bad on how this whole team formation thing worked and how you go into somebody's house and try helping people. And that really just excited me that people could do this as a team. So finally, one team answered me. The team's no longer around. And they said, yeah, you can come on. You can learn about the equipment. We just won't take you in somebody's house. I was like, fine. That's all I want to do. I want to get hands-on experience on how to do this. And they had access to a 5-story mill in the Attleboro area, full access every single night that we wanted to. And we could, roam this mill and investigate all we wanted to. It was like the perfect training ground for somebody that wanted to get into this. And that mill had activity. It was like every floor inside of that place, the higher you got, the more positive the energy was. The lower you got, it seemed like the more darker it was, whether that was your, psychosis playing with you or it was actually happening. It was definitely something to experience. And then that team ended up disbanding, and I ended up meeting Ken DaCosta, and he says, why don't you come on my team if you don't have a team that's that you can join. And I was like, sure, I would love to. And Ken taught me so much about he's like a walking encyclopedia.
Yeah,
really is.
If nobody's ever met him, he literally, he can recite Shakespeare in front of you if you ask him to, and he'll do it. So he's just a wealth of knowledge, and definitely the perfect person that you want to learn from. And then that's how I got involved with TAPS after that. And it just kind of opened up from there.
And then he got stuck with me.
Yeah.
I got stuck with
Then you became the paranormal couple.
I know, right?
But no, Ken DaCosta is going to be on this show next week.
Wonderful.
He's the final guest of Scott Tober.
And you know what?
But he's already been kind of a guest on the show.
I was just going to say, you've played clips where he's conducting
So many of
EVP
my
sessions
EVPs
and different
have
things like that. And I like his style and the way that he conducts himself and everything.
Oh, absolutely.
So, and like I said, when I was talking with you guys before the show, that I like a lot of the way you guys handle things compared to others that you've
a lot of credit has to go to Ken. He was my mentor too.
Yeah. Right. That's
absolutely.
It seems like the community is very, even though there was Rise Up, there's TAPS, the groups are pretty close. There's a lot of communication between the groups. There's a lot of respect, mutual respect
collaboration and working together.
Right. That's what I've noticed is, when Jason was here a couple weeks ago, he spoke very highly of Ken. There's a lot of that mutual respect between groups.
Absolutely.
So
and that's what's good. That's what's really good.
Yeah, and it's not like that everywhere.
No, I'm sure there's not.
It's nice that it is here.
Well, one of the things too is, there's not, you can't go to a community college and take a course in paranormal investigation.
Well, some colleges you can, but I wouldn't recommend that.
No. If you really want to learn how to do this, you got to get with one of these experienced groups and learn how to do it.
Yep.
So
right.
Good for you for being that persistent that you're like, no, I'm just going to keep asking and figure it out, and because this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
But it's funny, our stories are so much alike, because I was the same way. I had many experiences. I did lots of exploring and investigating on my own, and lived in a haunted house for a while, and wanted to learn as much as I could. And then once I had all that knowledge and all that experience firsthand, I was like, what do I do with this? And then, of course, I started seeing the TV shows, and I was like, well, there's people out there using their experience and knowledge. I want to do the same thing. And so I reached out to Rise Up Paranormal, just Googled paranormal in Rhode Island, and sent them an email, and we met, and I was on the team for a while. And that's how I ended up meeting Ken too. And
it's amazing.
It was, just putting the equipment away at first and things like that, but just watching what he did and what, the other members in the group did, and just learned from it. And we got to explore some of the best places.
Oh yeah.
Historic places, haunted places, amazing. Not just, dozens and dozens of families and people that we were able to help, but all these historic places we got into too. It was some of the best days of my life. It really was.
I think about, I live in Northeast Connecticut, and there's a bunch of old mills, as there are. New England, where we live, there's so many, buildings like that, stuff like that. And I've been in a lot of these mills, and unfortunately, when I was a teenager, some of them when I shouldn't have been in them, exploring and stuff like that, because we all have that curiosity. But when I hear these stories and I think that stuff might have been going on around me, do you think some people are just more in tune with this type of stuff? And if you're just more naturally in tune, can you train yourself to be more in tune with these things, or do you either have it or not?
Absolutely. I absolutely think, everybody's different. I mean, everybody, I believe personally, I know Satori is, she's more into the metaphysical side of things. I'm more into the technical side of things, but at least, in my opinion, everybody has that intuition. I mean, if you've ever had that feeling that the phone's going to ring and then the phone rings and you're like, wow, I knew that phone was going to ring. Or you walk into a bar or a party and you're like, okay, there's going to be a fight that happens in about 5 minutes. And then a fight breaks out, and you just have that inner intuition that something's going to happen.
Yeah, I think that there is that intuition, and everybody has it, some people more than others, and I think you can train yourself to have it, but I think a lot of people have more intuition and more ability or sensitivity than others.
Right. And I think that bleeds over to the spirit world, because it's all energy, and at least from my standpoint. So like I said, I really wanted to learn about the paranormal, and physics, in my opinion, is a huge part on how everything works. So that's what I ended up going to school was for physics and learning about how everything works. And, as far as what a ghost is, like that's one of the big questions. What is a ghost? Is it a soul, a spirit? But what is a soul? What is a spirit? And I definitely it's everything is energy. That's what everything on this earth is made of. Right. So there must be a way to detect this energy, and there must be a way that a human body, the human senses, can detect this energy. Just like when we feel the humidity change or the temperature change inside of a room, we physically feel that. In the same way, somehow our bodies must be able to detect when a spirit is around. So I think everybody has this intuition. It's just trying to figure out how to open it up. And some people, they don't want to open it up. So you really have to be open. And we find that people that are born into it with an open mindset have a much better ability to sense this stuff.
That kind of makes sense, having more open mindset, because and that's what I mean by training, because like someone like myself that's been closed-minded for a lot of years, and I've become a little more open-minded over the past couple of years. I wonder if I went on investigations and I started to learn about it more, would I become naturally more in tune with it?
Yeah, you probably would a little bit
than I've been in the past, because I always kind of shut it out.
Well, I think at first you would shed the fear.
Right.
Once you shed the fear and you start becoming curious, then when you hear that strange sound, you're not afraid of it. You're like, what was it? And that's like the biggest leap to get past, I think, when it comes to this. And I also feel like it's very environmental too. I feel like it has a lot to do with your upbringing. If you grew up with parents who were very closed-minded to this, then you are probably closed-minded to it because of it. But if they were very open to it, you're going to be more open to it. I feel like there's definitely an environment, societal, around you that helps you become either more in tune or not as well.
Then I'm in trouble, because my parents are very closed-minded. If my father gave me one hug, I wouldn't be a comedian right now.
Well, I'll also add to that. You're completely right, because, for example, a lot of kids believe in the Tooth Fairy and Santa Claus until they're told it's not real. So their minds are open to everything until they are closed off to that.
Great point.
We're told as kids, the boogeyman under the bed isn't real, but maybe it is real and we're just being told it's not, and then that's preconditioning us to believe it's not there,
Now that bothers me. We're told the boogeyman wasn't real, and he probably was, but yet we're told Santa Claus and the Tooth Fairy were real. Well,
yes.
So what kind of bullshit was that my parents were telling me?
It's just a child's open to everything until they're told not to be open to it.
Exactly.
That's what I mean.
Yeah, because they're more open-minded and trusting.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Yep. So when you hear a child talking about their imaginary friend, is it really in their imagination, or is it really there? And they're more open-minded to it, so they can be in tune to it, but adults aren't, because they've been it's kind of been beaten out of them.
I'll never forget my oldest daughter. She's 28 now, but when she was 3, my nephew passed away from leukemia, who was 5.
Okay.
And one day we were driving by where his final resting place was.
Yeah.
And she's looking out the window and she goes, "That's where Ben is, right?"
Wow.
And we're like, "Yep, that's where Ben is now." And she goes, "Yeah, but just his body's there." And we're like, "Yep, that's right." And we're thinking, he went to heaven type of thing, because she's 3. I know, I don't want to lay too much on a 3-year-old. And she goes, yeah, but he's not sick anymore. And we're like, yep, you're right. He's not sick anymore. She goes, no, he told me.
Wow.
And we're like, what do you mean he told it? And then she started like describing things about him that she couldn't have known.
Wow.
And my wife and I are looking at each other like, that's a little weird. Because she was talking about a place that he was at that he had gone and visited that she didn't know he had gone and visited through Make-A-Wish. She didn't know anything about that.
Wow. That is something else. That gives me chills.
Yeah. And it was just this really weird moment. And again, when you talk about children and open-minded and everything like that, there's no way she could have known that. And I'll never forget that.
There's millions of stories 25 years later too.
Oh yeah, there is. There's literally millions, and we actually have. We brought something that's a very similar story.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, look at that. It's almost the perfect segue.
And I didn't know that, obviously. So
you set yourself up. Now you're off the show.
I'm such an ass.
All right. Well, before we do that, I want to know more about the museum, like how you guys decided to do this, and what came about to where you're like, we should make this a thing. Like, how did that happen?
Yeah. So I had a small collection before I met Satori, and it started by accident. So I mentioned my Catholic grandparents that lived downstairs. They had this about 4 foot tall painting of Christ that was passed down generation to generation, started in Italy. It was passed down from my grandfather's grandfather to his grandfather, and then, to ended up in my grandfather's hands. And so it would be my great-grandfather, great-great-grandfather. He used to pray to this painting every single night before bed. And when he got, towards the end of his days, he was extremely scared to die. And he kept praying to this painting, asking for peace. And one night he claimed that the painting started talking to him and telling him that everything is going to be okay and he has nothing to worry about. And after that point, he was perfectly okay with passing away. He passed away. The painting got passed down to his son, and then it got passed down and ended up in my grandfather's hands. On his deathbed, he's praying to the painting every night and claims the same thing. It starts talking to him, saying everything's going to be okay. So I've heard this story my entire life, and it always intrigued me. And every time I'd walk by the painting, I'd kind of stare at it, seeing if it was going to talk. Thankfully, it never did, because I guess that would mean I was close to the end of life.
That'd be a little scary.
But not a conversation you want to have.
I have my fingers in my ears. I'm not listening.
Yeah, la 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 la.
So I'd always be like cautious about it. But when he passed away, the painting was passed down to me. And that was really the first thing that I got that I was like, okay, I'm going to really pay attention to this painting and kind of watch over it. Could it be possible that an object could have this ability to, soothe somebody and have, energy attached to it? And then, doing research on that, I would come into people actually believe that a spirit can be trapped in an object, which after collecting hundreds of objects, literally, that's extremely, extremely rare that would be the case. Most of the objects that we have, we believe it's just something that somebody loved when they were alive, and they're just check in on it once in a while. They're not stuck inside of it. They're not, always around it 24/7. They just check in on it once in a while. And when a lot of these things end up in secondhand stores and people purchase them, sometimes we find that the spirit that this object originally belonged to, they're not really happy with their new owner. So that's when stuff starts to get stirred up.
So most of it is like an attachment.
I think so. Attachments, triggers, just heavy energy from intentions and things like that. But we do have a small portion of objects that we do believe have some sort of possession, as if the spirit is kind of attached themselves to this object and use it as a physical conduit to interact.
Are we talking Annabelle, Chucky type things?
Yes, similar.
If you pull a doll out of that,
he may crap his pants right here. He might.
Well,
is Ace still watching?
Over.
I'm just
be a fun
It's gonna be really fun.
Oh, boy.
Ace, if you're still watching, I am gonna kick the shit out of you next week. That's all I know.
If I can handle it, you can handle it.
You'd be surprised. You would be surprised. I can already tell you're way tougher than me.
Oh.
So you guys have been, so you've got all these items now, and now you've been traveling.
Yeah.
You go to different conventions and expos, and
Sure,
you do
yeah.
displays at like libraries and things like that.
Yeah.
Yes.
You have like a little spiel that you do.
Yeah, for a short amount of time, we're going to be traveling with these objects until hopefully we can get a location where we can just take care of them permanently.
Yeah, that's the goal within a few years. Yeah. So mainly the museum gets packed up in a truck. We drive to different haunted locations, and there's a couple different setups we do. So one of the main museum setups features about 150 objects that we picked from the museum that have different stories, and some really good stories, because history is everything when it comes to the paranormal. We want to try putting forward the good storyline with the object to show this is where it came from and this is what's happening. So we picked out some really good objects for that. So that's kind of one setup where we set up all of the objects inside of a haunted location and allow people to come and see the haunted objects inside of the haunted location and maybe investigate there. And then there's the smaller setups where we bring about 10 to 20 objects and allow the people to view them that way as well. And it's definitely worked out. It's definitely a popular thing that people have kind of turned on to for some reason.
Well, you have two different things that interest people. One, obviously, the haunted side of things, but also the historical side of things.
Right. Oh yeah. You could go to this. You could go to this setup and love history,
right,
and learn something.
Because I'm a huge history guy. So from a historical standpoint,
right,
I'm sure you got some really cool items.
Oh, absolutely.
The fact that they're haunted doesn't help, but the historical side of things is pretty cool. But what was that painting that you were talking about? Was that the first piece you kind of had for your collection?
Piece. That was the first piece.
That's what kind of got you started on this.
You take that one on the road with you too, or is that stay?
So the main museum setup that we do that features the bunch of items has so it's different exhibits. We tried to make it a little immersive.
So you have a bit of a religious angle.
We have a religious section as well. Yeah, we have a whole religious section of religious artifacts,
tribal sections around the world, things like that.
So people have donated these things to you for the most part.
Yes,
99% of the objects in our museum have been donated to us.
Have any of them were like it did an investigation and you determined that some object was causing it, and the people let you have it? Any situations like that?
A good amount of them, yes. So, they've been donated.
Yeah, and every object. So I know that there's been TV shows out there, and we're good friends with John Zaffis, who's been featured on a show, and there's always a speculation where you think grandma's ring is haunted. Of course you think it's haunted, so you can take it home. But every object that we have in the museum that's been given to us on a case, we're always giving them the chance that if they ever want this back at any point in time, to just contact us. But to this day and time, nobody has ever contacted us to get their object back.
Yeah, the only other type of objects we have in the museum were either given to us or we have obtained because people feel that there's energy attached from the situations they were involved in, and those are kind of separate from the actual haunted items. But yeah.
Now, do you do anything? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, what is the most
trying to be like Ace and not let you talk?
Yeah. So you picked up on that. What's the most unique piece that you think you have? And you may have different opinions on this, but you gotta have one piece that you think is kind of like
they probably both have their own favorite.
Right.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Unique. So we have something
maybe not a favorite, but just something that you thought was
very
like
unique.
Very
stands
different.
out compared to the other stuff.
Yeah. So we have an ancient artifact that was excavated from the Valley of the Kings.
Supposedly.
That's a story that's been passed down from us. So we're in the process. So whenever an old object comes in, we always try to get testing done on it to back up the history that goes with it.
Right.
So with this object, so it's called the Shabti, and when really wealthy people like pharaohs in this ancient culture would die, they'd be entombed with if you had a lot of money, it would be about 400 of these little figures. And this kind of links to current day voodoo as we know it today. These little figures would be made to represent as a servant. So they believe that if you had 400 of these figures inside of your tomb, they would come alive in the afterlife and serve as your servant. So the more servants you had, the better off you'd be in the afterlife. So these were made by literally the thousands in this time frame. And this is just one of those that's been added into the museum that people say that they feel different energies off of, not haunted or have an attachment per se.
Yeah, just different energies.
But different energies. You can feel the energy coming off of it. So that's intriguing to me because of the history of it.
It's kind of like a bringer show on the other side.
Exactly. Well, I'm going to get 400 miniature swimsuit models.
There you go.
Hey, there you go.
With me.
He's thinking.
Thinking ahead.
There you go.
Well, another object, I guess, for the historical part too, we have a pair of used polio braces, children's polio braces from the early 1900s. And a lot of people get some strange feelings off of that. There's also claims of the shoes moving and the legs moving as if somebody's adjusting the piece of equipment. It's very heavy, very, very old. And it definitely has lots of use in it. I can only imagine what the poor child was feeling when they were in those braces, but it is a piece that gets a lot of attention also.
Oh, man. Now, and this is a question I think you're going to want to have the answer to. Do you do anything as far as protecting yourself from these items? I'm sure people ask you this all the time, but I'm sure people want to know.
Oh, absolutely.
Do you do any blessings, any rituals, any kind of things before or after?
Wear a lead vest.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people follow up with that question, like, what is your religious belief? And we say everything, because we feel that if you believe in something, it all intertwines. Like, there's a place you go after death. There's a good, there's an evil, there's a way you protect yourself. So to make everybody else feel comfortable, we've kind of incorporated everything. We have prayer cards and crosses, crystals and sage, things like that, all different kinds of religious things that we can incorporate.
So you encourage people to practice in those before going to your
items? Your
items?
intention is the real power, not necessarily exactly what you believe in, but the intention you're putting into it is the power. For us, we like to ground ourselves, and as funny as it sounds, I give the same ground rules to every object that comes to the museum, whether it has a good claim or a bad claim. I'm like, okay, you can be here, you can leave and come and go as you want, but you're not allowed to go to another part of our home, things like that. And I kind of give them a rule book, and I put my ground rules down. I don't really put my tail between my legs per se, because if you're afraid of an object, the object starts to own you. Things like that. So that's how I view it, and it seems that we work if we're very protected about it.
Right. Yeah, we encourage anybody that visits the museum to believe in what they believe in. You know, I always say, like, if you believe in a jug of milk, then believe in a jug of milk, and that should protect you, because that's what we find. Whatever you put out there, and as long as you feel protected, as long as you feel good. I mean, you know, Tom, whenever we go on investigations, we always say, you know, if you're not feeling well, stay home. If you're a little under the weather, stay home, because you never know what could happen. And it's the same way. If you feel good to enter the museum, then go. If you don't, then you know, you don't have to.
That's exactly what someone told me many, many years ago when I was just a kid and I was exploring all this stuff, and I was spending way too much time in Swan Point Cemetery in Providence. A friend of mine, we can go over stories later if you want.
We have a piece from there.
I've got some doozies. Oh, do you? I used to too. I used to have something from the Sprague tomb. But anyways,
of course you do.
Of course I do.
Of course you do.
But I had a friend whose uncle was a witch. He was a male witch, warlock, whatever you want to call it. And he used to always tell us, anything you believe in can happen to you. If you don't believe in it, it can't happen to you. So he's like, if you believe something can possess you, it can possess you. But if you believe it doesn't, he goes, so that's all spells are. That's all rituals are. He's like, they're all just mind over matter. And that always stuck with me. And I think that always helped me in paranormal investigation. And even to this day, now with the podcast, I mostly just consult people who are looking for help. I don't go out into the field as much anymore. And people are always asking me, what can I do? I feel like this thing is in my house and it's disturbing us. And then I always tell them, take charge. Let it know that you are in charge and that it's welcome to stay, but it has to stay by your rules.
Oh,
and I feel like that's what you guys are doing with the objects as well.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. Sage isn't going to magically work if you don't believe it's going to work.
Right.
You know
exactly.
I mean? So like, you know, for me, I mean, Satori believes in sage. With me, on the other hand, I grew up in a Catholic household. So, you know, maybe prayer would work for me or something like that. So we're definitely two different people. But we end up meeting in the middle with definitely setting a wall and setting up boundaries.
And we've never had a negative experience because the way we approach the subject. We've never had negative interactions. I mean, it's honestly funny how they interact sometimes.
And that was a question I was going to ask. So have you ever received a piece where it's just, you know, a negative feeling or negative energy
We've gotten some negative feelings off of objects, and we keep them away from the rest of the museum. We kind of give them their own section closed off, where you know what you're getting into if you were to see them and view them.
Nothing ever bad enough where you said, nah, we're just not going to.
We don't really know. I think we just have we try to have good energy about it. So I think it kind of counteracts it. It calms it down.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. The positive energy will always rule out on that. Yeah.
Right.
But you have to be careful if you ever bring any negative energy in. You don't want that
right.
to be.
It's definitely a cautious thing. It's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah.
And you definitely have to be comfortable with what
So
you're doing.
you keep these items in a room that's just in your house, like
so there's a whole closed off section that we keep separate. So one of the first thing that we always tell our clients, because the first thing isn't to remove the object from the house, of course, because we don't really want the object. That's the last resort. So we try to tell our client some different advice to live with the object, because a lot of times it's a family heirloom or something that they loved. And one of the things we always say is remove it from your living space, put it in a basement, put it in a shed that's on the property, and you'll see hopefully a change that happens. So we follow the same rules that we need to remove everything from our living space and keep it separate, because it can overtake your life for sure. So there's the whole so my whole basement, and then an outbuilding has been added on, and that's been converted into the museum, and there's different sections inside of the museum.
We have a quarantine room where before an object comes into the museum, we like to quarantine it for 3 weeks to see how it interacts by itself before incorporating it with other objects.
And with COVID, you can't be too careful nowadays.
I guess so.
You can't have an object bring COVID into the other object. So I get that.
all the dolls have to wear masks.
That's just being safe, people. That's just being safe.
So now, where did the two of you learn all of this? Like, I know your dad's ghost hunters, but he doesn't necessarily seem like he's an object guy.
That's what I was going to say. Investigations are one thing. This is another angle.
This seems like you branched off onto your own with this.
Yeah, he's not very much into the object side of the paranormal. I mean, it's interesting to him, but he's not doing it himself. So he's always encouraged us to do our own thing, whether it be something he necessarily believes in or agrees with or not. And when I met Cody, I saw that he had some objects that had claims. I felt some energy around them. I fell in love with them instantly. And as our social media presence began to grow and people really needed help, I guess I just kind of took on this motherly figure to all the objects. I fell in love with them instantly. I wanted to take care of them, whether I keep them forever or not. So that's just kind of where it grew for me. I met them. I feel the energy with them, and I feel connected to them.
Yes. And thankfully, we became friends with a lot of other collectors that have been doing this, for years and literally decades before probably we were even alive. And thankfully, they've really given us a lot of advice and some, words of wisdom as far as, keeping these things in a, building and what to do when removing them. And everybody does things differently. So we've taken little bits and pieces from everybody and found what works for us. Our friends at the Warren Museum, they have a priest that comes in every month and blesses the museum. They wear oven mitts when they handle their objects and stuff like that. And then, John Zaffis, he has a priest that comes in once in a while, but he touches his objects and things like that. And we're totally fine with handling our objects because we feel comfortable handling them. So it's one of those things where everybody kind of has to do their own thing and do what's comfortable for them. And that's usually what works.
We support it all.
Yeah.
Now, our friend Jen, she put up.
Let's take some questions.
She put up a question. She said, "Once you prove that an object is connected to an energy, have you had someone then decide to keep the object?"
There's been a few cases. Well, there's actually been a lot of cases where we've talked our clients into keeping the object because, like I said, a lot of it is something that
I was going to say you did mention something about that earlier.
So we do have family heirlooms that belong to people, and it really makes you think for a second because you're in a case where somebody has something that's been passed down in their family and really means a lot to them. And they're at the verge of a breakdown because they can't have this in their house anymore because there's just so much stuff happening around it. And, we've been nicknamed like a foster home for these objects because, like I said, we always offer them, to be returned to their owners. So there's definitely been plenty of cases where we've been able to help the client live with the object, either if it's just putting it in a basement. It's still owned. They still own it. It's still in their possession.
And we've even proven things were happening with this object, whether 100% we can prove that it's an entity attached. We've definitely gotten some proof that something's going on with this item. And afterwards, we've even contacted the owners that gave them to us and been like, okay, this is what we got. Are you sure you don't want this object back? You can always have it back no matter what, but this is what's going on with it. And we even give them a second chance after that. And they're always willing to contact us to have them back.
Yeah. There's definitely a lot of misconceptions when people are viewing paranormal activity too.
That's so interesting.
It's so weird as I hear this stuff because I think about, stuff that's happened in my own life, and you know, unexplained stuff that's just happened, and it's like, okay, maybe these are things that have happened, you know, because I you know, as you guys are talking about, you know, objects are obviously something that is new that we're talking about, because we've talked about investigations and stuff like that. And I think about, you know, like I have my grandfather's dog tags from World War II, and every time I have them or something like that, it just something just feels different,
right,
when they're around.
Exactly.
And I always just think, well, I'm just thinking about them because they happen to be there. Now, you know, this past year during COVID and the lockdowns, you know, comedians, we had nothing to do. So when he passed away, I inherited all his tools. He was a woodworker. So I started building some stuff with his tools. I put them together, and you know, I didn't feel anything different or anything. I just started using them. But like with his dog tags and the stuff like that, that's, you know, I still have those in my bedroom. I still, you know, keep them on my bureau. That's and I don't know what it is. I can't just, you know, put them away. I can't move them out of the bedroom or anything like that. You know, there's just something different about them even when I pick them up and touch them, you know, there's just, it's different.
It seems that I'm just going to tell you right now, it seems when you think of somebody you love, or you have something from somebody you love, that's like a little beacon. They know where to find you. They know how to come to you. It's what I found.
And, you know, it's just in the past, it's always like, you just happen to be thinking of them because you're picking it up. Type of thing. But it, you know, when you hear about stuff like this, like you talked about the painting, and you know, the family lineage with that painting is just amazing, you know, and I'm sure the people have those type of experiences all the time where they just kind of go back to that type of stuff.
We've heard plenty of similar stories.
Hair on my arms.
Exactly.
He's getting spooked. I love it. Scott Tober. Now I got to ask, and I'm taking over for a minute because you mentioned that you had something from Swan Point Cemetery. What do you have? Now, my backstory is I grew up in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, right down the road from Swan Point, which is in Providence. So I could literally
And you did
walk
how many episodes on that on your podcast?
I think I did a three-parter because I've had so many experiences growing up there.
And
everything from H.P. Lovecraft's grave to the Amasa Sprague's tomb, and the secret tunnels that are supposedly under the.
Because I listened to those episodes, I think twice.
Yeah,
because those were really interesting.
I was just
episodes.
on someone else's podcast talking about them the other day. But because I used to have a piece of, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but the Amasa Sprague tomb, if you've ever been there, on top, it's kind of built into a hill. And on the inside, which I haven't been in it, but I have verified it from a firsthand source, that inside that tomb, it is set up like a church.
Really?
And Amasa Sprague is buried at the top where like the main altar would be. And then where the pews would be with the rows are where all his family members are buried in this tomb. And the tomb is a large tomb, and it's built into the side of a hill. And if you go around and you go on top, now it's just like a plain of grass and maybe a couple of small trees. But back in the day when I was younger, when I was like 15, 14 years old, what was built there by request by the Sprague family, Amasa particularly, was they created, and this is true, I've been there many times, it was the spookiest place of all time. It was a huge circle of trees, bushes around 5 trees. These huge trees went up in the air, and then there was these big like 12-foot tall bushes that went around it. And you could go through the bushes and go inside, and it was like a cave because the tall trees just kind of hung over the bushes. And it was 5 tree trunks, and those 5 tree trunks formed a 5-pointed star.
Really?
So this spot was used for witchcraft, black magic, and all those things. And all the evidence of that was there because all the tree trunks from 6 feet down all had burn marks on them from people doing rituals. Lots of times you'd go in there, and in the dirt, the lines for the star would be drawn in it. And people, supposedly you could curse people by taking a personal item of theirs and burying it in there. And it was the weirdest thing to go into because it could be 100 degrees outside. You go in there and it's a cool 50, like 60 degrees. Like it was always chilly inside the trees. Yeah.
You're not talking inside, like
not the tomb. This isn't the tomb. This is in the trees, in the bushes. Yep.
Wow.
So it almost formed like a cave, the way the trees fell down over the bushes. And there was 2 different ways you could go in. Okay. Wow. And so there was always lots of ceremonies and rituals and things going on in there in the middle of the night, you know, and obviously they didn't want trespassers coming into the cemetery all the time. So they decided one year, they got permission from the Sprague family to cut down one of the trees. they figured, if we can get rid of one of those trees, then they can't make that 5-pointed star, and then that will ruin their rituals and everything. So all that was there was a stump. But what somebody would do is somebody would just go into a trance and stand on that stump and become the other point and let the energy flow through them, supposedly is what would happen. And
somebody needs a hobby.
All kinds of weird things that I witnessed in there and around there. I had a friend whose dog would never go in there, would always run around the outside of it, just barking, would never go anywhere in there. I had a friend who he went in there with us one time, and he was wearing a cross, and it burned his chest. Like he had like a little red mark in the shape of the cross on his chest after walking out of there. So anyways, years this was there. For years this was there. And then one time on a Halloween night, I guess some people went in there to do some witchcraft type stuff. And security at the time had, and this is the story I'm told, I wasn't there for this. The security at the time had some dogs that they would use for security to chase people out of there, because they used to have a lot of issues there.
Wow.
It's very hollowed ground, those backwoods, and I can tell you all about that too, that I know all the history of it. But anyways, so security chased all these people out with the dogs, and then like a couple nights later, all those dogs were found killed in their kennels. So the people got revenge.
Oh, wow.
That pissed everybody off. So they went to the Sprague family and said, we'd like to take that whole thing out of there. So all the trees and all the bushes and everything got removed completely, and it was just a flat plain now on that hill on top of the Sprague tomb. And I think now they've planted a couple of smaller trees just to make it look less empty. But that's what used to be there. It was a very, very haunted place. The tomb is right across from H.P. Lovecraft's burial site.
Oh, yeah. Well, might as well have friends,
right?
Nearby.
So that is one of the things. And I used to have a piece of one of the trees from there, and I don't know what I did with it. It's probably in a box somewhere in my basement. But I used to have a piece of one of the trees from there. Now I used to have weird, like, out of body experiences when I would go in there.
Interesting.
But in a good way. It was kind of like, how somebody tells you their problem, like, dude, you can't believe what's going on with me, this sucks, my girlfriend that, or my job this. And you look at it from the outside and you're like, dude, just do this. Like it seems so simple to you, that problem, but when it's your problem, it just weighs down on you.
Right.
But I would go in there and I would have this like out of body experience, and I would be like looking at my whole life situation from the outside and see all the answers. And it used to just blow my mind. So anytime something was seriously bothering me, even up into my adulthood, I would go there and just walk into that bush area and just kind of sit on that stump for a little while and kind of meditate, and then come out and feel like everything was going to be okay.
Wow.
It was such a weird place. And I haven't been in a few years, but I still like to go every once in a while and just kind of look at it and remember it all and everything like that. It's kind of like I watched a movie, but I actually lived it. It was really there.
Wow.
And I wish it was still there, because to me, it's a very interesting place.
I do too.
That whole cemetery is, I'll quickly tell the whole backstory of the cemetery. Supposedly, many, many years ago, when all the witches were being cast out of Massachusetts and other states, they came to Rhode Island because Rhode Island had a freedom of religion. You could study anything you wanted in Rhode Island. You could be a witch. So most of them built a village right on the Blackstone River there, and those backwoods right behind the cemetery. And I guess some people who were against witchcraft came down in the middle of the night and burnt the entire village down, killing all of them. So supposedly that's why that cemetery is such hallowed ground, because those backwoods, especially, and where some of the graves are, is where these witches were all massacred.
Wow.
Back there. And I have been to witches circles, present day witches circles in those woods. They still go out there and practice in those woods.
Oh yeah, we've heard stories.
And I have found staffs and different sticks and ritual things out there. There were fireplaces with broken glass from flasks and stuff in them. I wish I had kept some of those things. Those are really interesting things. But anyway, okay, what do you got from Swan Point?
Right,
That's my Swan Point story for you.
you.
I got Scott. So look at Scott. His jaw is dropped from that story alone. And he's heard them because he's listened to the podcast.
I know,
twice.
but it's just there's such riveting stories, because again, there's a historical aspect to that. When you think about that, there's a real strong historical aspect to that whole thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, wait to hear this.
Hundreds
one.
of years.
So,
I can't wait.
What do you think before we show? Well, you want to show them and they guess what it is?
Oh yeah, sure, we can do that.
I'll
Good.
take a look. Let me see.
All right. So what do you think that is? Here, I'm passing it over. What do you think that is?
Well, it's got a hole, so it almost looks like something they would wear, like a medallion or something they'd wear around their neck. Almost. Nowadays, it could be like something someone
I
have
feel
on
like
a
I've
key
seen
ring.
one of these before.
You might have. Do you want me to tell you what it is?
Is it like a marker for like a tomb or something?
It's a toe tag.
Oh, it's an actual toe tag.
Oh, lovely. You can have that back.
Right,
That's great.
The story behind this is
That's
a woman
so cool. And it
is,
says
We'll let
Swan
you
Point
hold it, 'cause
Cemetery
it
right
doesn't-
on it.
It doesn't seem like it has that negative activity, so you guys
It
can
has
hold
a
it.
no negative
just
activity.
because people aren't going to be able to see it
Toe
on there.
tag.
But see, it's just
supposed
a
to be with
round
the body.
metal tag, and it says Swan Point Cemetery on it around the outside, and then it says Providence, Rhode Island, and then it has a letter with 4 numbers, which they must keep records and
Right.
It
identify.
was,
They do,
yes.
yes.
So were you able to identify who it was from?
So what happened was a woman was mowing her
Should I have
front.
not thrown it?
I don't know if he would have liked
Oh, no,
that.
here we go.
Upset them.
All of a sudden, you're going to feel a slap.
Yep, exactly.
So this was a case that we had worked. So a woman was mowing her front lawn one day and finishes mowing the lawn. She's sitting on her front steps and notices something glistening in the sun in her front lawn. Walks over to it and thinking it's a coin, she brings it inside of the house. As soon as she brings it inside the house, paranormal activity starts to happen. Shadows, footsteps, getting tapped on the shoulder. She starts, looking at it under a magnifying glass and notices that it has, same as cemetery and a number. Has no idea what it is. Knows it's not a coin. Contacts a cemetery. Guy at the other end of the line is actually really baffled, and he goes, "Well, ma'am, that's a toe tag, and it belongs on one of my bodies. That's in the cemetery." And she's trying to figure out who it is, and they said, "Well, for privacy, we can't tell you who it is, but it definitely should be on the body. We have no idea how it ended up."
Yeah, I was going to say my question would have been, how did it get
Right.
here?
Get in her front yard.
So of course, my first thing is, okay, well, maybe, after, she of course didn't want it because it was causing paranormal activity.
She tried giving it back to
to him, and the guys were like, "I don't want it. It's not on the body. I don't want it. I don't even want to open that can of worms." So anyway, the toe tag is donated to the museum, and we start doing a lot of research. And my first question is, was the gentleman or the woman cremated, and they spread the ashes at like a childhood home or something? So we again confirm, was this person cremated, or was not cremated? And the person said, no, the person wasn't cremated and supposed to be buried in the cemetery. So I was like, okay, that's even more strange. So now we start talking to, some colleagues and stuff like that. And then we get alerted of this strange, weather event in the 1950s where there's 2 hurricanes back to back. You may have heard stories about this, Tom.
Yeah.
And
I've done investigations because of it.
So 1956, I believe it was, 2 hurricanes, 55 or 56. Yeah. I believe it was 56. 2 hurricanes back to back, summer of 1950s there. About 30 inches of rain on this whole area, and dislodges a lot of caskets from the local cemeteries, mainly in Woonsocket area.
Literally
Providence,
washed them up.
going down Main Street, ending up in people's front yards, getting washed out to the ocean. And they can't return all of the bodies because a lot of them are all broken open. The casket broken open. They have no way of putting everybody back. So could this be how this toe tag ended up in this woman's front yard? That's the best guess. Of course, the Blackstone River is right behind the cemetery, and we know that caskets were washed out, unfortunately. So we're not really sure how it ended up there, but that's definitely a possibility.
And she was having many claims along the lines of seeing shadows, hearing footsteps. Somebody was tapping her on the shoulder when she brought it in her house, and it was making her very uncomfortable, things like that.
Yeah.
But we have had some experiences in the museum with it. We've seen a tall, skinny shadow around this item and only around this item, which is interesting. So it makes
I wonder if there's any way you can, I guess because of privacy reasons, they're not going to identify who it's from.
We tried, but maybe we'll try again in a couple more years.
I'm wondering how old it might be.
Yeah, it's interesting.
I mean, there are graves there going back to like 1600s. I mean, the back part of that cemetery is very, very old. It's a huge, huge cemetery.
Yeah,
they still haven't filled it. Like you could still, bury your loved ones in there. I have a friend that I went to high school with who was buried there, and it's just but it's beautiful. It's a beautiful cemetery.
Beautiful,
it's like a park. People use it like a park. People go jogging there. I've seen people have.
Do they still use metal tags there?
I believe so. I believe metal tag is the more. I mean, they usually use metal ones. they've used metal ones for a long time because when you cremate somebody, it doesn't melt. You know what I mean? And it stays with
I
the body.
estimate early 1900s.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's any earlier than the 1900s.
Well, I'm just thinking from a number sequencing,
right.
Could they at least tell you that it's probably from the early 1900s, 50s, whatever? That way, they might not be able to tell you the person, but they might be able to tell you the decade.
We'll have to try to get in touch again. Maybe we
should
can
try. I'm hoping
and find some information.
I'm hopefully no one's, but I'm hoping that the staff changes there, and
because I'm sure they didn't just randomly use numbers. It has to be, they probably use them in a sequence.
So. I would hope so.
Yeah, I'm sure they have records because that looks like it's a record number on there.
Right.
So they must have
now,
some sort of
when you got it, was it that clean, or did you have to clean it up?
I think the woman cleaned it off and everything. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm sure. Yeah. I think it just probably
did
made
we
its way to the surface.
freak you out because you were
the fact that you saw a tall slender man around that was enough for me.
Well, you held it, and before I even said what it was, you were interested, and then I said it's a toe tag, and you threw it back.
Yeah, that just kind of.
Yeah,
I've never seen a metal toe tag before.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, a lot of them are paper. Yeah.
I've only seen when they're investigating a body type of toe tag, the paper ones, that they use during
a wire one or
something. Yeah, the paper and wire type.
Yeah, but that's usually like
while they're investigating.
It's usually the coroner or something has that one.
I've never had a reason to look into
what they look like. Yeah,
what that looks like before.
Have you guys been to Swan Point Cemetery?
Yes, we have.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Awesome.
I would be interested in going there.
You want to go
with
sometime?
you? I would love to go
with
you.
The Tom Stewart tour.
Yes,
it's a good spooky one
because it's you the way you tell the story of it is very interesting.
I knew the place like the back of my hand.
Yeah,
I used to literally, as a teenager, sneak out of my house in the middle of the night because it felt like the place was calling.
No. We're gonna go at like 10 a.m.
No, we'll go during the day. We're not gonna. I'm too old to be climbing over walls,
bright sunshine,
and running from security. Because I got chased by security plenty of times in there too. I feel like they had like trip beams and secret cameras everywhere because there was so much activity in there.
I'm gonna have garlic and crosses and everything else.
That's great. That's so funny.
There was the story of, and this might go along with the toe tag, and this is the legend I heard. I don't know how much of it is lore and how much of it is real, but what I'm told is many years ago, it was considered bad luck to transport a deceased body on land. So they had a set of tunnels under the cemetery. And these tunnels were basically how they would take the body and transport it to the section of the cemetery where the burial was going to be. And supposedly these tunnels exist, and they actually exist in some H.P. Lovecraft stories.
Oh, wow.
That he talks about a cemetery in Providence that has tunnels under them, and some of the tunnels are supposed to lead to hell, and that there's a three-headed dog and these things like that. If you ever study Lovecraft, most of his stories took place in Massachusetts or Rhode Island.
Yeah.
And most people believe it was Swan Point Cemetery that he was talking about because he grew up near it. So when I was a kid, I had always heard that story, and being the Goonie that I was, I always wanted to find these tunnels and go into them and explore them. And this is on my podcast, so you know this story. But my friends and I, when we were kids, we would ride our bikes through that cemetery all the time. It was like the park, to us. And we didn't care about the paranormal factor or anything. We just thought it was a cool park to ride around. It was so big, So we knew it. Back of our hands, knew it. We could blindfold them and find our way around. But there was one section that we didn't go to very much for some reason. I don't know why. We just never did. There was no reason. But one day we were riding our bikes around there, and I saw something that looked like a gate built into a side of a hill.
Wow.
Now, a lot of the tombs are kind of built into hills, so it kind of resembled that, but this one looked different. There were bushes in front of it. There was no doorway like most of the tombs have. So that's what I thought. I was like, that's weird. So we got off our bikes and we looked at it, and it was just a big old wooden door with the metal straps across it, and it had an old wooden, old metal lock on it, like an old-fashioned lock.
Yeah.
And then it had a more modern fence in front of it.
Yeah. Okay.
And we wanted to get in there so bad. I mean, we were banging that thing with rocks. We were pulling on it, trying to bend it, anything we could get in there. We were never going to get in. But we were like, we got to get in there. So we got back on our bikes. We rode back to his house to get tools. I mean, we got hacksaws, we got hammers, we got all kinds of stuff to try to break into this thing. We were like, we're getting in there. We got flashlights, we got duffel bags like on our backs, backpacks with stuff. We're going Goonie hunting tonight. That's funny. So we ride all the way back to the cemetery, and we go back to the exact spot, and it's gone. The gate, the door, all of it's gone. It was just a hill now with the bushes in front of it. And I swear to you, it was there. And I remember looking down at my hands and seeing the rust on my fingers from me pulling on that thing, trying to get it to
Maybe it was a trick.
Open.
They were trying to trick you.
So it was like, it gave me a chance to get in once. And then That was it. That was my chance, and I didn't get in. So that was a really freaky story. Is that
I remember that
one?
story. I remember
Is that a hair
story.
up, hair
The first time I heard it, I was driving in my car and I almost ran a red light because Tom's very good at telling a story.
Yeah.
He's very, very good because he's got the right voice for it.
Yeah.
And when he's telling the story on this podcast, the cadence, the music playing, it just kind of just envelopes you and you're just into the story. And I'm going along, all of a sudden it's like, oh, there's a red light because he's getting to that point where he's like, we're back and it's not there. And you're like, oh my God, where is it? And I'm not paying attention to what's in front of me.
That is
so that's just, I remember that story really well.
That's a crazy story. And for years I looked for it. Never found it again.
And
Pissed me off.
Our friend Jen just said Scott squirming in his seat is quite funny. The bourbon becoming hand sanitizer after touching the toe tag made her laugh her ass off.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah, that's what other trinkets do we have?
Let's start getting some goodies out. I know people are waiting.
We could do the
I'm
mask.
looking forward to this.
The mask.
The mask. Oh, look at that thing.
So this
How
is an
cool is
authentic tribal mask brought over from Africa probably about 25 years ago to the New Orleans area. And of course, getting into collecting and stuff like that and, working with different people, we, of course, want to learn how people interact with the spirit realm. And of course, voodoo and all of that was a big interest to a lot of people.
That mask just makes me feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
That
so
is wild.
That's one of the claims.
How
for
old
sure.
do you think that is?
It was passed down from his families
So
and their tribes
ancestors,
and
few generations.
Yeah,
three
absolutely.
generations.
So what happened was, took a few trips down to New Orleans and interviewed a witch doctor, believe it or not, and a voodoo practitioner. And this story comes from the witch doctor who owned a little shop in New Orleans. And knowing that we're collectors, he brings out this, big cardboard box. And inside the box is 6 masks. They all look completely different because they're handmade. And each of these masks, some backstory on what they were made for. So they were made for their tribal ceremonies. And the maker of the mask, while he was making the mask, he would envision a different god or deity. And they would put all of their intentions in making the mask while envisioning this god to try, embodying and making a link from the mask to the deity. And then when they would do their tribal dances, they believed that the wearer of the mask would then become possessed by this god. The spirit of the god or deity would come over, be channeling them, and then they would do their tribal ceremonies. So he brings out this box of masks. There's 6 masks, all different. And this mask is separated from the other 5, wrapped in some sort of fabric. And, of course, my first question is, why is this mask separated from the other 5? And he goes, well, this mask makes me feel really strange. He goes, when I hold it, I get these visions of tribal dancing that really freak me out. Even though I know it belonged to my ancestors, it just really freaks me out. The whole shop smells up with this campfire smell that I can't explain. I get really weird feelings off of it. And I start seeing shadow people and stuff in my store. People don't want to come in. So now I'm going to give it to you and you can take it home. And so we took it back. And this is definitely one of those things that made it to the top 5 list of the hundreds of objects that we have because it's lived up to the claims many times. Yeah. It's definitely made people feel uneasy.
Campfire smell filling up every room and things like that.
I wasn't joking when I said that I felt uncomfortable when you brought that mask out.
Do you? Yeah.
Yes.
He's a very powerful presence, cool. and we've gotten some EMF spikes and things too.
You want to hold it?
No, no, and I'm not. It's just.
I'm afraid I'll drop it.
I just have a very weird feeling with that thing in the room right now. It just feels weird.
It's definitely, it gives that effect to a lot of people, and it's. I mean, I was turning around so you can see the back too.
Yeah.
So it's definitely an odd object, and we have tested out, done a lot of, experimenting with it just to see if it has anything strange about it. And it's giving off 5 milligauss of natural EMF every single time we test this out. Why? We have no idea. We have no idea.
Let me ask for the layperson. What do you mean? What is milligauss?
So there's 2 types of EMF. And so there's man-made EMF and natural EMF. Man-made EMF is all the wires in your house, everything that runs off electricity, man-made.
So
natural
EMF is
electromagnetic fields.
Okay, thank you.
So
just in case people don't know. No.
So the natural form of EMF you might be very familiar with. The biggest natural form is the Earth. That's how our compasses are able to calculate north and south. It's also a proven fact that inside of every single one of our cells has a small bit of this natural EMF. So for a piece of wood to be giving off a natural EMF field is extremely odd, is extremely strange, especially up to that level of 5 milligauss. The natural, amount of EMF that you should be giving off in a house is like 0.5. That's
0.5.
That's the normal for man-made EMF.
Okay.
The safe range. I mean, if you get into high doses of EMF, it can make you feel really strange, especially if you're sensitive to it. It make you feel like you're in the presence of a ghost. But for some reason, this is giving off EMF when it shouldn't be.
We've also heard an disembodied voice with this object too. I like to say good night to the museum every time we leave, just being respectful. And while leaving,
he's already tapping out.
Right?
I said thank you, good night. And as we walk away from this mask, we hear an echoing good night. And he had a very thick accent. It was like he didn't really understand what I was saying, but he heard me say it so many times, he just wanted to be respectful.
Yeah.
And it made me very happy to know that, he's listening and he feels happy enough to repeat what I'm saying.
No, you know what's respectful? Saying nothing. That's respectful.
He's very nice.
You know what, Scott, though? You get to go home. All the spirits are staying here in Ace's house. So
thank
No.
God.
all right, I want to
No.
hold it. Can I hold it?
Yeah.
You guys trust me to hold it?
I
So it's
trust
made out of
you.
wood, so it's not going to be too heavy, right?
I don't necessarily feel that anything's going to happen to you.
No.
He's a nice guy. He's
is.
Yeah.
nice.
No, I'm just wondering what materials are.
How
Like,
old
what is
do you
this
do you
down
think
here?
that is? Do you have
No
an
idea.
idea?
Ooh,
how
I
old
have
that
no
is?
clue. I would like to get it tested if
Yeah, so-
possible.
yeah,
That would be
it
interesting.
feels
to see
like
how old.
old animal fur.
If I could
Right.
find somebody from like a university or some
Right.
sort of scientist that was
Oh,
like,
yeah.
I'll do this, I would give them this object.
Wood
to test.
testing is definitely a thing that can be done for sure.
like it's been hand sewed. You can see that in the back.
Yeah, we know the shells. A lot of
and
those
it's
shells
wooden.
are used for fertility.
fertility gods
Yeah,
and things
I was
like
gonna
that.
say there's interesting shells, and then there is metal on here.
Yeah, it seems to be
And
some
it
sort of
looks like-
aluminum.
Yeah, I was gonna say
Yeah.
it looks like an old aluminum.
Yeah.
that was kind of like banged out by hand.
Yep.
Which could be the conductor that they were using to channel
Sure.
whatever energy they were
Mhm.
trying to get while wearing this mask as well.
Absolutely.
And this material, I'm not sure what it feels
No
It's
like.
like a filled cloth. It's
Yeah.
so strange.
Yeah, I'm not sure what it's filled with. Like it's kind of solid, but it's just a little bit squishy.
Yep.
Mhm.
That's really cool.
It's interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, hard to see through.
It is, yeah.
If you hold that up against your face, you'll become Stanley
I know,
Lipkiss.
I know.
You
You want me
look
to-
like Jim
Yeah,
Carrey.
You want me to bring it to
Carrey.
the camera so people can see it?
Yeah,
better?
go.
Sure, yeah, go right ahead.
Take these headphones
Go ahead.
Yeah.
People are gonna want to see these things up close.
The mask made a new friend.
I know. I'm sure he'll love you. He's one of the nicest spirits we have in our museum.
Really?
He really is.
Yeah, he's awesome.
He says
He's
good night. If anything happens, usually
Oh yeah, you're. Yeah,
if
you're
we
right up
have
there.
anything like energy interactions where maybe objects aren't playing very nice together, we will have the tribal section in the middle, and it seems that it just like levels out everything, almost like the
Wow.
medium energy there that just kind of puts everybody in their place.
This is your medium referee. Kinda.
Yes, I guess so. He is like a referee. He makes sure everything's going well in the museum.
That's an impressive piece.
He's
Yeah, it's
very
beautiful.
kind.
Yeah, it's a really
I want to
beautiful
tell you
piece.
something I'm noticing.
Mm-hmm.
When you touch these shells, they're cold.
Mm-hmm.
They're like cold. You want to try? Just put your hand on them and
I
feel,
promise he
feel that
won't
they're
come
cold.
home with you. I
Don't
promise.
they feel cold?
Yeah.
Like unusually they shouldn't be cold. This thing's been
Interesting.
in a suitcase for like a few hours and
Yeah,
they feel like they're cold.
Compared to the rest of it.
Yeah.
Right.
Isn't that wild?
weird.
On the way here, our car started smelling like campfire smoke.
It's weird. Yeah, we just came from an event in Maine and we had him on display and
Everybody was running out of the
Freaking
tent.
out,
we had
yeah.
it displayed on because they were like, it
Thought
smells
something's
too
on
much like fire. We
Yeah.
can't be in
Oh,
there.
that's really
Wow.
interesting. I love it.
So we had
Yeah.
to take
Love
a
it.
break.
What have you given them a name?
we haven't really
We
given
haven't
him a
given him a
name. We
name.
tried to ask, we still try to
Yeah.
ask to this day, and maybe we'll
Mhm.
get something, but we
No.
haven't yet.
Have you tried letting like a medium or somebody try
We
to get something out
we
of it?
encourage that
We
all the time.
encourage it.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
anybody has any sensitivities, please let us know.
Yeah, but we no one's really read this one in particular, but we have gotten some good luck with mediums reading some objects.
But we
for
know
sure.
there's a man attached. We do know that for
Mhm.
certain
Definitely a
because we hear him
gentleman, yeah.
talk.
You know it's a male.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes, when he talks, it's a very deep, raspy voice.
Okay.
I also find interesting
Well,
that
it's
the
2021. You shouldn't judge.
I know.
'Cause you don't know.
You just don't know.
He's
um,
very kind.
the forehead has like a bulge to it,
Right.
which I think is interesting
Yep.
because it obviously wasn't molded after a person's face, but like you were
Right.
saying, a god.
Yeah. Yep.
For what they considered a god, anyways.
Yep.
That's a cool item.
Yeah.
I like that.
You want to see something
Very
else?
cool.
Yes,
Oh,
please.
absolutely.
All right.
Well, do you need a second?
No.
Okay.
This is
All right,
like I
so-
said, from a historical perspective, this stuff is really cool.
That's wild.
Yeah, because this one goes with the story that you were mentioning earlier.
You stay here.
Which story? She really does like caretake for these
I
things,
love
doesn't
them
she?
so much.
Oh boy.
An unsuspecting toy fire truck.
Oh boy. This is one of those
Um,
things that starts with no batteries in it or something.
Well, kind of. So what happened when this came from Norristown, Pennsylvania, another case that we worked on, and what happened here was a mother and her young son is at a charity church yard sale, trying to make money
Some
for the
sort
church.
of yard sale, yes.
And what happened was they're walking through the aisleways, and her young son had to be about 6 or 7 years old, if I recall. Was drawn to this fire truck, wanted the fire truck. So the mother paid the $4 for the fire truck or whatever it was. They bring it home, and this is his go-to toy. This is the toy he's playing with every single day. And the mother's happy because it's keeping him busy. She can do things that she needs to do. This is one of the newest objects in the museum. So this was quarantine period. She's working from home. So she was very happy to have him
This was
busy.
very recent.
Yeah, so we just got this
Yes, this is
into
what's
the
been
museum,
told
yeah.
to us. Yes.
So what happened was the mother started noticing something strange. She'd walk by the playroom and notice that the child's having a one-way conversation with themselves, talking, pause, start talking again, like somebody's there that she can't see, that only he can hear. So this was kind of strange. She thinks, oh, maybe it's an imaginary friend. Everything seems fine. Let him keep playing. So a couple weeks go by, and now it starts turning a little darker. He starts running over to the mother, crying, very upset, saying that there's a little boy. He's extremely sick.
He's sick.
And he's playing with the fire truck, and he's wearing a white dress with blue polka dots. So we had a chance to interview this little boy, and we kept asking him, what did he look like? He kept saying this dress. So we're showing him pictures, and so of course I
He was saying terms.
right.
That
So
only...
he kept saying he had like a button on his chest and things like that. So right away, I connected right away because I had cancer. I had leukemia in 2011.
Did you really?
And all these terms, he was starting to know terms that I recognized right away. And he was talking about a port, which is something that a lot of cancer patients have.
Button in his chest.
And he was saying he was extremely sick. The hospital Johnny was the dress.
Yep.
So it was really starting to affect him mentally, which was, warranted the call to us by the mother because she was starting to worry that, he's seeing something that he shouldn't be seeing. We gave her some tests to do. We said, move the fire truck to a shelf inside the playroom. So he can't play with it, but he's in the same room. Because at this point, the child was not wanting to play with the fire truck anymore because he knew he kept saying, this isn't my fire truck. I don't want to play with it anymore. So the mother moved the fire truck to a shelf, and the spirit never came. So this is one of those rare times where the object is almost a trigger to bring out the child that was playing with this toy.
And we don't have much background on this object, but we asked them, could you try to figure out where they may have gotten this fire truck from? And the place that had this fire truck, they said, well, they came from many different locations, homes, daycares, possibly hospitals. They did say a lot of toys did come from hospitals that children didn't play with anymore, and they wanted to get new ones. So things like that. So we do believe it may have come from a hospital or something like that.
Yeah, but we'll never be able to prove it 100%. So all the activity stopped after they moved it to the shelf. And after that, the boy just didn't want to, just grew out of it and didn't want to play with it anymore. So the mother says, I want to send this to a place where it'll be, well taken care of. And, she started seeing some little things around the house whenever the child was home. So the husband and wife was divorced, and the child would go away to his father's house, and nothing would happen at all inside the house. And whenever the child was home and the fire truck was on the floor, she'd sometimes see it roll across the floor. She'd see the lights go on, but no sound. So when you push one of the buttons, the lights go off and it makes a siren sound. So it's impossible for just the lights to go off. So really strange things like that. But she just didn't. She said, I want it to go to a good home. I don't want it to go to another secondhand store or something like that. So it was sent to us, and it's been in our care for a few months now. It hasn't done anything yet. But
a lot of people feel sadness off of it. We did have a medium give her opinion too.
Absolutely, yeah.
A medium did get an opinion on it. She said she did see what felt like a childlike spirit, and she kept seeing this building, this big red building, and she didn't know what it was. But that's one thing that she also claimed around this object.
Well, that could be a hospital,
right? So one thing when people visit our museum, in every room that you visit, we have these stations where you write down what you feel. If you feel anything, awesome. Write down what it is, the object that you're having, and we have like a lot of notes from people that. And that was one of those things where people were feeling very similar things off of the object, the sad feeling in the building without knowing the entire story, which is, really amazing. So
the attachment must be attracted to other little boys then.
Right.
And wants attention, maybe wants a friend or wants someone to play with or something.
Right. And I don't know if it's, I definitely don't think that the spirit of the boy who passed is always with it. I think when he sees somebody, in my opinion, when he sees somebody playing with it, he kind of comes out and is like, okay, somebody's playing with the fire truck, I want to play too. But if nobody plays with it, I think he's off doing other things,
Yeah. Do you personally feel an attachment to it because of your relation?
It's definitely a story that I'm attached to for sure. It's definitely a story I'm attached to for sure because it made sense, and I felt really good that it made sense, and I knew what the boy was talking about.
It sounds silly for me, but I'm one of those, I want to see it to believe that it has an attachment. You know what I mean?
Sure.
So I'm waiting.
Yeah. And we find that that's normal. When we get a new object, it goes through this acclimation period.
Yeah,
when
it takes some time to get comfortable.
Right, exactly. And some objects never become comfortable. But nothing's happened with this.
It's an amazing story behind it.
Yeah,
that is.
That
is. That's anybody that's and that must be tough at times for some people to separate their personal story and wanting to believe something and to what is maybe really happening.
Exactly.
Because I told that story earlier, so I went through something in my life that would make me attached to that story.
Exactly.
Because I went through something like that, just like you did.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so if I saw something happen, is it me really seeing something?
Right.
Or is it because I dealt with something in my past that makes me want to see something.
Right.
Those are the things that I always wonder with whenever somebody experiences
exactly,
any type of, paranormal type of thing.
Sure. Absolutely. Yeah. That possibility is always there, especially if you want something to happen.
Right.
Then every noise that happens, you're going to automatically think that it's a ghost or something, which is why you have to be really, you kind of have to be in the middle at a very unbiased opinion about everything.
Exactly.
And, we'll always be straightforward. If nothing's happened with an object, we'll tell you. And nothing's happened with this one yet, but it's a story that is, really interesting and, emotional.
Whenever
it
involves kids, that always really kind of piques my interest because kids don't instinctively lie.
Right.
They're gonna tell the truth because they don't. That's who kids are. They believe wholeheartedly. They trust wholeheartedly. They have no reason to not tell the truth.
They honestly describe what they are feeling.
That little boy it really experienced that with that truck and that feeling, and he really saw that little boy in a dress as he described it.
Right.
That really happened for that child.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I 100% believe what he saw.
Oh yeah.
100%.
100%.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. Yep. All right. You want to see something spooky?
Yeah.
Oh, because
first of all, how much would you shit yourself right now if the sirens went off on that fire truck right now,
dude? You have no idea.
Okay, well
I think I might even.
They would be happy because they'd have confirmation finally.
I would.
Have you done any EMF detector or anything like that on that?
We have. So it went through its quarantine period and came out okay. Nothing abnormal. Everything's always on 24-hour surveillance. Nothing. No lights going off. Is it because there's no young child around it? Who knows? We didn't test that out. But I don't know. I don't know if I want to test it out. So
now, like you said, the mask had a high reading. Can that fluctuate?
It can
on an item, or do they tend to stay consistent when you test
absolutely them? It can. Like I mentioned that it seems that most objects it's only once in a while where something's around it and you have to catch it at the right time.
Okay.
And I think it also depends on the living energy as well. What living energy is around the object. That's why we think that when a lot of people get this draw to purchase something at a secondhand store or something like that, and then they bring it home and stuff starts to happen. the person might not, that living energy might not match up with the object, and that's why it's causing problems. And then we end up with it and everything's fine because it's happy where it is. We bring objects into the museum and put them in their sections, what we think is the right section
But
for
they'll
them.
always tell us if it's not.
And then stuff starts to happen.
Right.
Yeah, stuff starts to happen. It's like sitting at the wrong lunch table at school, and you have to move the person until everything's happy inside of them. It's crazy when you tell stories like this, but it happens. It happens.
We brought one object that's notorious for that tonight.
Absolutely.
Oh, you brought it with you?
Oh, yeah.
She's not one
nice.
to be touched.
Yeah,
just a warning.
this
She's
is
not
probably-
very.
Not a problem.
This one.
Okay.
Not an issue.
All right.
That just makes me want to touch it more.
Have at it, Tom.
Yeah.
She's not very fond of
That's
it.
okay. I won't touch it. I will totally respect that.
She is the most haunted object we have in our museum.
Oh,
here you go.
Well, thank you for
There you
bringing it
go.
then.
All right.
Oh, it had to be a doll.
Oh, shit.
It had to be a porcelain doll, right?
All right. It did, right?
Dolls are the spookiest
Creepy. The creepiest
things ever.
Always.
Yeah,
Wow.
they are.
This is Liza, and we had gotten her from a gentleman in Massachusetts who had called Cody after a podcast. And pretty much all he said when he called Cody was make it stop. And we had to calm him down. We had a psychologist reach out to him because we thought maybe this man was mentally ill and looking for help. She said he cleared. She gave him a quick questionnaire over the phone before we even decided to keep in contact with him because we were so worried. And she was like, he seems okay. He's just struggling really bad right now. We then contacted him and was like, okay, what's going on? He says, I have this doll, Liza. She's talking to me in my head to do bad things to myself and other people. Red flag goes up because now it's a safety concern. We're worried about him and anybody associated with him. We ask, okay, can you give us more information? Why didn't you try getting rid of this doll? Because he said his life was falling apart. He said, I did. She just keeps coming back. What he meant by that was he threw her in the dumpster and the garbage man found her, took her out of the dumpster, cleaned her up and sat her back on the front porch for him to find in another time. So it seemed that he couldn't get rid of her.
Are you kidding me?
This is the story we were told. And
could you turn her to look more towards Tom?
It's staring right at you.
Yeah,
And,
thank you.
so she's a Victorian era doll. She has that cloth body with porcelain feet, hands, and head. So she's older, but he couldn't get rid of her. She kept coming into his life and ruining it. So we said, okay, we will meet with you in public and we will take it just for safety reasons. He met us in public. He needed to get rid of it. We said, okay, can you tell us where you got it from? He wouldn't tell us, which makes us think either he dabbled in something he wasn't supposed to, or she's just not very fond of where he got her from. Maybe he took her without her permission. We brought her home, put her in the museum. She's the most active object because she doesn't sit still. She talks. She does everything you can imagine. We had her in a doll section and all the other dolls' heads turned 180 degrees backwards, facing away from her. They wouldn't keep in their direction. I don't know if it was her or them, but we tried this a couple times and every time it was a bit more aggressive. Some would be falling over, their heads that aren't supposed to be turned, their entire body was turned around, things like that. So we had to move her to a shelf because every case we put her in, she gets out of. And that was the compromise. We do have footage of her actually moving if you would like to see it from 2:30 in the morning.
Yes.
Yeah, if I can pull it up.
She is
Oh,
an
she's got
object
it on this
possession. What we mean by that is she has nowhere else to go. She's always with this item. This item's always moving. It's almost like she's still alive and she's using this item to be
Now,
alive.
how did you come up with the name Liza?
This is what he told us. He told
told
us
you
that
her
her
name
name
was
was Liza, and that's
Alright.
how she was speaking to him.
Mm.
But we don't think she's an evil entity. We just think she's a not nice person because she doesn't interplay well with others.
So you
but
believe
she,
it might be a spirit?
Yes, because
of,
we've asked questions and it's been, human. You hear English and it has an accent. There's characteristics about her that are very human-like. So we do believe that she is a human spirit.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So you've gotten responses.
Yes, we actually did at one point. It was with our own ears, but we asked at one point, why do all the heads keep turning around? And we heard, it's clear as day, looking at me. It was something like that. We heard looking for certain. So we feel that she didn't like the other dolls looking in her direction, so she would turn them away from her. So we had to move her away from the section, and that's when activity stopped.
Now, do you always hear her, or is it EVP activity usually?
We have gotten some EVPs, I believe.
Yeah, we've gotten a few EVPs. It's definitely been mostly disembodied.
I'm just laughing at him.
Yeah.
He's breathing heavy over here.
But
I have
mostly
a tough night sleeping.
movement. She moves so much. It's mostly movement.
That's wild.
Never seen anything like it in my life.
Yeah.
Especially because, we are the ones who recorded the videos, and we know that it was us.
It was in a locked
them.
area of the home at 2:30 in the morning. Was the one we will show you. Just a motion detection on a cell phone. Is what we got.
You feel she's happy in your possession now?
We think she's happy. We just think she has her own rules that she kind of applies, and we're like, okay, if you follow ours, we'll follow what you want. We'll be kind about it.
Yeah.
And so we give her her own space because she's nice to us. She treats us well. We think she's authoritative over every other object in the museum.
Now,
that's for
the
sure.
voice you've heard, is it an adult female, a young female?
Adult female.
Yeah.
And it seems that it has some sort of English or Irish accent from what we heard.
Sounds
it had
like
that
Irish,
that R roll, that R roll to it when we hear it. So we think it may be from another country.
Yeah.
Have you inspected the doll at all to find any kind of markings that would identify anything?
We have not found a maker marking at all, at least not yet. So we're still looking, but we haven't found anything on the bottom.
It may
of her
be
feet
custom made too.
Yeah, we're not too sure.
Now, the eyes look, it looks like one eye is larger than the other to me. Is that just an illusion from my angle here?
It might be an illusion.
The left eye looks like it's just a little bigger and the eyebrows a little higher to me.
We don't need to spend a ton of time over examining things.
It is.
It
just
might,
a little bit.
It might be the Rock. Is it the Rock? It might be the Rock's mother or something.
The eyebrow
The
is
eyebrow's a
higher.
little higher, and that's like
A lot of people say her eyes move too, even though they're like painted on. So I'm not sure.
Yeah, because the left eye looks just a little off center to the right one to me. Yeah. Not that makes anything bad or anything.
Do you want to show them?
It's not loading.
Oh, it's not loading?
Let me see if I'm...
The internet's tough down here.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to try doing it this way.
But in the video, we didn't speed it up or anything before. She just moved. She came to life. Her arm pushed down.
Do you keep
adjusted her.
surveillance on all your items at all times?
Yes,
like
we do.
Video and everything? Yeah?
Yes, we do.
Oh, wow. I've just streamed that. I would just watch that.
We actually tried doing a live stream with us that in the museum once, and we had a doll on display, a Japanese doll, and there were shadows darting, equipment going off, and then the live stream ended on its own. So we're not sure if they like being viewed.
When you guys do your
us.
streams, that's where you are? You're in the room with all the...
Yes, we are.
Because I've seen your TikTok videos
in
and
the
your
corner.
YouTubes and stuff.
Yeah,
I didn't realize
she's in the
that you were
background all the
actually in the
time.
room.
Yes, because
Okay.
she's the most active, so we keep her in the background.
Oh my god!
And while you're looking for that, it's the Paranormal Couple. Is that your tag name for like TikTok and YouTube and stuff like that?
The Paranormal Couple, Facebook, Paranormal Couples Haunted Museum. We go live on that all the time. That's kind of where all the fun happens. Things like that. So anything, if you search up Paranormal Couple or paranormalcouple.com, you'll find us on anything.
Good.
Do you have room for more items, or are you stocked up?
Definitely always have room
we
for
always have
sure.
room.
But yeah, we definitely, I mean, since we started TikTok and stuff just seems to be showing up on the doorstep in boxes with
Saying,
letters.
get it away from me. This is taking over my life.
They're just dropping them off like orphans
and it's
now.
like we have to test them to see what's even going on because we don't have that much description going
you
along
don't have
with
a background when it's like that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's definitely been an interesting journey for sure.
But if it doesn't work, we can show after.
Yeah,
we'll have to go outside or something. The internet
But
down here in the
thank you so
basement
much.
isn't so strong.
Well, that'll be the next thing we work on down here.
Yeah.
We don't need to
booster.
accomplish that
Get a booster.
tonight.
Yeah, you know,
you know,
the
that's
video won't work.
okay.
That's just a
We'll
bummer.
just take your word for it. That's absolutely
hilarious.
fine.
Have we been getting any questions or
Oh
anything?
my
Do you want
god!
to do some questions while he takes a look for that?
No new questions since the last one. If you guys have any though, please that you'd like us to ask Cody and Story, please let us know. We can ask them for you.
Do you want to hold Liza?
No, no.
She's not that nice.
Absolutely, absolutely.
She's very nice.
They said out right up front that she didn't like
she
that.
doesn't like it. So.
I am going to respect
that.
Liza
Well, one
and
time
her boundaries.
One time we didn't ask her. We like to say, Liza, we're taking you here before we take her. And one time I didn't. And we'd taken her to an event. And on the way there were 3 car accidents right in front of us that we witnessed and made us hour and a half late to our event. And there's no 100% way to confirm it had to do with it. But it's strange
Just
that of all
odd.
nights, right?
Just odd.
And Cody's car broke down soon after, things like that. So
You're not helping me at all with any of this stuff.
she's her. She's very has her own characteristics.
How long have you had her?
2018.
something like
2018.
Yeah.
So
And when you bring her to places, do you keep her in like a case or something so
We
people
usually
won't touch her?
do. Yep. We
Yeah.
keep her in a case mostly because people instantly see an object and go, I want to touch it.
Yeah, of course.
And,
a lot
they
of your
wanna
items you
hold
must
it
be
and-
concerned with because you don't want people to break them.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's not necessarily the cases aren't to keep you safe from the entity there. It's more just
Oh, yeah.
keep them safe from the people that want to touch them.
Well, and you have some things that are old,
Right.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah.
too. You and something like that mask, you don't want everybody handling it,
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
any of these items. These are, it's a museum pieces.
Oh,
it's working.
It's working.
Oh, I
no,
can't wait
it's
to see this
working.
video.
You're
And
gonna
then
have
I
to see
can't
it.
wait to see Scott watch. Can I film Scott watching the video?
Yeah.
You can.
We're not
Absolutely.
doing reaction videos here.
Oh, I think we should
You
definitely do
should.
a reaction video
You should
here.
do that at some
I'm
point.
gonna put it. That's gonna be the first video on
Gonna
my
wait till
TikTok
after?
channel.
Are we gonna wait till after this?
Or do you want to make it the last thing we do? Maybe we should make it the last thing,
Are you gonna wait till after the?
Well, no, well,
or just do it now while it's
we're-
working.
Yeah. I would do it.
we're in an hour and a half in. We're gonna wrap up soon anyway.
okay.
So
Okay.
That's okay.
we're
Well, they still got more stuff in the suitcase.
How much
Scott.
Oh,
more
we can
stuff do
show
you
you
have?
after another time. Whatever you want.
This could be a two-parter.
Yeah, you might
Oh
have to
my
bring us
God.
back. You'll have to bring us back.
A few more.
We have
a few more tricks. How much
No,
time have we got?
no, we can go longer. That's
Okay.
fine. We're not a set schedule. I didn't know how much you have.
That? One more.
Yeah.
Okay. One more good one. Yeah. If Liza's cool with it.
Well, you when you said you were bringing out the most haunted piece.
I
He
thought
thought, yeah, he
mean,
thought it was
yeah.
the. He
Maybe
thought it
we
was
should
going to be
wait.
the grand
That-
finale.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
thought
I
that was
think
like the
this-
big
We
one.
can.
Yeah, maybe we should
how
leave
about
it as
do
the
a
grand
part
finale.
two
Okay.
someday?
Yeah,
All
we'll
right.
do
All right.
part 2. Keep you on the edge of
All
your
right.
seat.
I'm good with that.
You're not going to get an argument from me.
He's not coming back to part 2.
we have to be a surprise.
You know what? Ace Aceto is still watching, and he
Is he?
keeps saying that doll is staring at you, Scott. You know,
It is.
Ace,
It has been.
go back to drinking. All right. And he said you're welcome back anytime because he really feels bad that he couldn't be here
Oh,
tonight.
he wishes he was here for
He
this.
would
I
be
know he
eating this up right now.
Oh, that's
he
awesome.
loves
He would
this
love
stuff.
it. Yeah.
That
cool.
that doll's interesting.
Will you hold Liza up to the camera so people can see her? Like go right up to the camera with it. I
You
think people
hold
would love to
Liza
see
up
it.
to
Yeah,
the
we
camera.
can't. Yeah, we're not going to do it.
I'm
but
not going to do it.
see if I mean I don't want to spook people, but this is what people are watching for.
Now, is the video of her moving on any of your social media or anything?
There she is.
We involve the video in presentations if people register for like libraries, usually free presentations and
Okay.
things like that. If anybody asks us, we are 100% sure, like we will send it to you if you're interested.
So definitely follow them on their social media and
Yes.
check things out, and you'll be
Mhm.
able to see a lot of the stuff.
We have a virtual presentation tomorrow, actually.
What do you have for dates coming up? Tomorrow night virtual so people can watch online.
Yeah, so virtual tomorrow. I know we have one in person in Connecticut coming up next week, but every other day next week is also virtual. So paranormalcouple.com, click on the events page, and you don't have to live in the area that the virtual event's happening. You can tune in from anywhere around the world, and that video is at the end of the presentation tomorrow. So you just have to register with the library, whatever library sponsoring it, and there's a link on the website.
Oh
to
no,
do
we're
that,
watching
yeah.
the video right now.
Oh, good.
Yeah,
Oh,
we're
good.
watching it right now.
Good.
They can watch it on the
Yes,
stream, but
absolutely.
we're watching it now, Scott.
Yep, right now.
Oh, Tom, I can always count on you, buddy.
This is great.
And,
Wasn't this a fantastic surprise? He had no idea who you
I
guys
didn't.
were, who was coming. I never even
I-
told him names.
Nothing.
It was
Him and Ace
Ace
didn't say
knew,
anything.
but
Jen said Liza is creepy. Those eyes follow you,
they do. They do. They do.
Oh,
and they do.
I think she likes hearing that. I think she likes hearing that
She likes being
scares
a little
people.
creepy. Yeah. Oh, that's okay then.
'Cause she likes to be in charge.
She does like to
Oh,
be
yeah.
in charge.
And when you're
Yep.
creepy, you're in charge.
Yeah.
She gets more active if people are scared of her.
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
Scott.
But you're not scared of her.
I'm not scared of her. No.
Yeah. Yes. She
She's-
doesn't like that.
You
She's
might be
gonna-
scared of her.
She's going to be in his dreams tonight.
Oh, my dog is not allowed to sleep in my bed tonight. She's more than welcome to climb up in the bed with me. I will absolutely let her. But again, thank you so very much for coming in. That I have found an interest in this stuff over the years. It's a guarded interest,
Mhm.
but as again, like I said earlier, as you're scared of things you don't know.
Mhm.
So as I learn more, I'm still not 100% comfortable with it, but
You don't have to be.
I'm less
Yeah.
uncomfortable with
Good.
it
Yeah, I think the
Because-
more you learn about it,
because I've become more interested in it.
that's good.
As I learn more about
That's
it.
really
So,
good.
I appreciate you guys taking the time to come in, and I would love to see the pieces in the museum sometime.
Oh, wonderful.
That's you got
I definitely
amazing.
want to come to your whole presentation.
Yeah, definitely.
Too.
I would love to come see that.
Aren't you guys going to be at
Ocean State Paracon?
Yeah, Ocean State.
Yes, we will have a small setup there too.
All right, so I'm probably going to swing by there, and I almost went and got a vendor booth. I was going to do it just to promote the podcast, but
sure.
I got too many other things going on. But I'm planning on stopping in that day though and just go around the convention.
Perfect.
You should come, Scott. It's a paranormal convention. There's lots of vendors and booths and stuff. What is it? November 18th or 19th?
18th and 19th, or I think 19th is the day of
19th
it.
and
It's at the Plainfield
19th and
Casino.
20th?
Your birthday, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's Ken DaCosta organizes it.
Yeah,
and there'll be like mediums there, and there'll be lots of paranormal teams and lots of Q&A panels and all these things. It's interesting.
And us and our objects.
Yeah, and they're going to be there with their stuff. I'm going just for that.
Stuff.
Yeah,
it'll be set up. That stuff's very interesting.
Yeah, I'll tell you the
interesting.
history about each object. That's so you get interested.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Tom, anything going on? I mean, we got a gig tomorrow night, which I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, we get the comedy show tomorrow night. I've got the podcast, of course, My Paranormal Story. It's on all the sites, Spotify and iTunes and Stitcher and all of those.
Definitely check that out if you haven't listened to it before. It's an excellent podcast.
I got the book.
Yep.
The 10 Best Tools for Ghost Hunting.
That's
available on Amazon, and
awesome.
My follow-up is coming soon. The 10 worst tools for ghost hunting.
Those are the ones I'm buying.
Those are the ones
that detect nothing.
Those are the ones that are going to piss off all the paranormal people.
The ones that do not work. I'm investing in all 10.
There you go. Those are the worst ones because they're going to make you think something's going on. Those talking machines and stuff.
That right.
Yeah, but I mean that's what's all going on with me.
Cool.
All right. Other than that, I have a
video to watch.
Yes, we definitely have a video to watch. But
got away.
November 6th is my next Bradley Playhouse show in Northeast Connecticut with Jimmy Dunn and Kerry Louise are two of the comics that'll be on that show. Our bourbon date this week was Old Elk. Like Ace always says, it's like having Old Spice cologne. You kind of get it for Christmas and go, oh, well, we're going to use it anyway. But it was, we want to thank them. That was very delicious. And for those of you that watch every week, thank you. Those of you that listen every week, thank you. And again, the best way to help out the podcast is to tell a friend and to give us that 5-star review. So we appreciate you guys tuning in every week, listening every week, and we will talk to you next week.